Hello. With 2022 coming to a close, I felt the need to discuss some of my favorite movies of the year, so I thought I would break them down in a top 10 style, going from 10 to 1. The movies that I didn't include on this list were ones that just didn't really impress me, or that just didn't make the 5 out of 5 ranking that I've kind of set for myself on Letterboxd. But there's a few that I probably would have put on here, like The Menu, which was a phenomenal movie. I really enjoyed it, and it had some great acting standouts. It was super fun and a great film, but it's not on the list because it didn't make the top 10. But there are two films that I think would have probably ended up on here if I had seen them sooner, which is After Sun and Banshees of Inisherin? Something. Anyway, they would probably end up on here, but they have not. So let's start with the top 10.
How many soulmates?
For you, like 4.
How many do you have?
Like 1,200.
Cha-Cha Real Smooth was one of the sweetest movies I have ever seen. It gave me the same energy as like A Peanut Butter Falcon, which was one of my favorite movies of 2019. Cooper Raiff, who is such a charismatic actor. I had seen House last year, which was his debut film, and he worked really well and had great chemistry with Dakota. I really enjoyed the fact that it feels like we're going around with him, and he grows as a person and not only just as a director. Just I feel that about Cooper Raiff. And considering his first film was about being a freshman in college, and this one was like the aftermath of that, I thought that was a cool contrast. I love seeing a star-studded cast and a bigger budget. It shows the capability of the stuff he can do. And I also really like the comedy and how it grew with him, because I feel like in his first film, I was not into the kind of like boyish potty humor comedy that he had for a lot of the movie, but I really liked the comedy that he had in Cha-Cha Real Smooth. It was a great movie. I just think that the emotional beats hit, but the comedic beats were super prevalent, and everybody had a stellar performance.
You look them dead in the eyes, and you pretend you're one of them.
Number 9, The Outfit. The Outfit was one of the most gorgeous movies I've ever seen. Seeing Dylan O'Brien in good material is so difficult. So sorry, Dylan O'Brien, for where your career is going. Oh my god. He was phenomenal in this like mobster role. And Mark Rylance is one of my favorite actors that I have just discovered in 2022 with his 2 great performances with The Outfit and Bones and All. It was an interesting story, but it did go on a bit long with sequel bait in the end, which is probably my only fault with this film. But it's such a intriguing premise, and the score was phenomenal. It was very prominent and went well with the tone of the film, and I loved it. I loved the noir style and the homage that it paid to some older films, like mobster films, and I loved it. It was a great movie.
This is really, really bad.
Number 8, Triangle of Sadness. I could talk about Triangle of Sadness for so long. I might make a video on it one day because I love Triangle of Sadness. But I first want to bring up how slick and competently shot the movie is. Like, it is a gorgeous looking movie, and every shot feels like it was woven perfectly to make the final product of Triangle of Sadness. Nothing feels out of place. With its long length of a film being like 3 hours plus, it felt necessary for every bit of it. The 3 acts were so perfectly done, and I loved it. It would always be doing a kind of shot that I would be thinking about and would want them to do, and I never really see that with movies. I never am like, oh, this shot would be perfect here, and then it happens. So it was cool to see that with this movie. The coloring was gorgeous, especially in the opening scenes at the fashion show, and then in the latter half on the island. The acting was phenomenal, especially from Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson was great in this movie. Yes, he was barely in it, but when he was there, he was great. I loved the argument scenes between Yaya and Carl, because the director played them with intense things in the background, like car traffic or the elevator closing when they were having their first argument. I just loved that. It added a sense of urgency to their argument. I don't know. I was super into that. The disgusting points in the movie were very disgusting, and I did almost throw up. But I love a good satire on rich people. My only issue is the pacing. Some points felt like they were dredging a little bit, but I was so intrigued that it didn't really matter to me. So, as I stated earlier, I think that the perfect 3-act that it had was just needed and necessary, and I loved it.
This is perfectly natural.
Number 7, Barbarian. It was a big standout in horror for me this year. I feel like I don't see a lot of original horror products. Most things do feel like they are a derivative of something in some way. But Barbarian was the most original horror project I have seen in so long. It was so cool, too. It was just a cool movie. One thing I really liked is the fact that Justin Long and Bill Skarsgård had their actors flipped on their heads, because Bill was known for Pennywise and Justin is known for playing sweet characters. So it's kind of the Promising Young Woman effect, where you're casting people in 2 roles where we think differently about them before they are introduced. And I love that. It's such a great way to introduce these actors and have them play roles that they haven't played before. And they were both phenomenal in their roles, especially Georgina Campbell, too. She was amazing. Great movie. And it's so fun to watch with people. I love how creative and original the premise is. And I love the setting, which is crazy bonkers, and the phenomenal pacing and setup. I loved the message. It was presented really well, and it was super camp. It was looking camp straight in the eye, and I had so much fun with it. My only complaint is the creature design was a little goofy and underwhelming. I do feel it had that thing, you get introduced to a creature and you have this idea of it, but then seeing it like straight out, like so early on in the movie, then the fear goes away because you know what it looks like. So the only thing you have left is jump scares, which I'm really happy the movie had one jump scare and it was like a comedic jump scare, because I think jump scares are a really cheap cop-out that I so rarely see done well. And yeah, I loved Justin Long.
Any love will set you free.
Number 6, Bones and All. As my dad quoted at the end of the movie, was the most disturbing film he's ever seen. So there's that. I love Bones and All. Luca Guadagnino is becoming such a phenomenal actor that pairs so well with his cinematography. Like, his cinematography makes the films what they are. He also is like getting so much out of Timothée Chalamet. Like, the roles that he puts Timothée Chalamet in end up being the only roles that I really like him in. Like, I feel like Bones and All was the best thing I've ever seen Timothée Chalamet do. Also, Taylor Russell is amazing, and once again, Mark Rylance. It was such a great cast, and it had this amazing energy to it in the 80s feel. It was a little long, the pacing was a little slow at times, because, I mean, it's not as prominent to me as it was with Call Me By Your Name. I was kind of one of the only people that didn't really like Call Me By Your Name because the pacing was such an issue for me. I loved it. Bones and All had some fantastic writing. It was a great movie. Number 5, Batman. Batman was one of the most unexpected movies that I liked this year. When I saw the trailers for Batman, I was like, okay, I'm excited for it. But I didn't know it was going to be this high on my top 10 2022 rap. But I am so ready for anything that is going to come out of this Matt Reeves Batman universe. Robert Pattinson was phenomenal as Batman, but also it created this dark and sinister world for Batman to be viewed in. And I also liked the idea of modern music being put in it too. Like, I don't know, like Nirvana was really fun to just have being the intro to the film. It felt so epic and so large scale, and Batman was so good, dude. Number 4, Nope. It's my favorite Jordan Peele project. I can say sufficiently. I do love Get Out and I love Us. Nope just felt like it was this huge budget, crazy film, and I was obsessed with every moment of it. I am really infuriated that I didn't get to see it in IMAX for the allotted time that it was still in theaters. My big hope is one day they will put it back in IMAX. I would love that. But this movie unlocked fears I didn't know I had, like chimpanzees for starters. The Gordy stuff was the best stuff in the movie. I will not debate anyone about it. But opening the film with Gordy was such an unsettling and brilliant choice from Jordan because it started with such a bleak opening up until the title card. And the way the Gordy scenes played out was definitely just the most terrifying scenes for me in the movie. The cast was phenomenal. Daniel and Kiki had amazing chemistry together. And Steven Yeun, oh my god, I dressed up as him for Halloween. I'm clearly a fan. Daniel has such a great blank and emotionless stare throughout the film that you can always tell what he's thinking, and it's so brilliant. I love him. Kiki had a phenomenal comedic performance and timing. Every joke came out and then killed it. The big giant thing in the sky that becomes more and more fantastical looking throughout, resembling a camera, that looked amazing. If that doesn't win visual effects, I will lose my mind. The cinematography was stunning. The night shots looked so impeccable. I can't even fathom how some of them were done. It also had great off-kilter comedy that didn't clash with the tone that Jordan was setting, which is a big reason why I love Jordan Peele. And the sunglasses at night scene is one of my favorite scenes in cinema this year.
Need to know that I have done one thing right with my life.
Number 3, The Whale. Although The Whale is the most recent film I saw on this list, it has become one of my favorites over the time that I've had to sit with it. I have never been more depressed after seeing a movie. Darren Aronofsky loves to leave you with this soul-empty feeling after every movie he makes, and although this one had kind of an uplifting ending, literally, I was still done. I was in that theater looking at that screen, bawling my eyes out. Luckily my dad was there. We cried in each other's arms. It was sad. Maybe not a good father-daughter movie.
And you won't have any idea what happened to me.
Number 2, my favorite horror movie of the year. We're All Going to the World's Fair. We're All Going to the World's Fair was this incredibly bleak and dark look at the internet and growing up with the internet, which has been the most real horror movie I've ever watched because I grew up being chronically on the internet and seeing creepypastas and top 10 scariest things online and stuff like that. So I have never been more uncomfortable and tender watching a movie. That's how Anna Cobb's performance made me feel. And Anna Cobb is insanely talented. I'm so happy she was in Bones and All this year too. It was so cool to see her do 2 things in 1 year. I've never seen her in anything before. The Alex G score was perfect. Alex G is one of my favorite artists, and I listen to the score all the time. It was on my Apple Music Wrapped this year. It's great. I've decidedly never been scared of horror movies due to the sheer fact that I don't really get scared easily. But since I was very young, the only thing that terrified me are the deep, dark corners of the internet. Things such as creepypasta, ARGs, and fan-made horror always rubbed me the wrong way. Which is why when I see films like this, I get so excited to see the sheer idea of being frightened. But this movie just so intensely hit me in the most uncomforting way. But I loved it. I love that feeling. There are so many moments in this movie where I drew parallels to my own life in the scary situations that I've been part of, like scary Skype incidents that I had when I was younger and searching up creepypastas late at night with the lights off. Please watch The World's Fair. If you take anything out of this video, maybe a really slow movie. It's super methodical and it's a lot to get into, but if you grew up on the internet, it is perfect. And my number 1.
Don't let anything distract you from it.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, it's the best movie it's literally my 4th favorite movie of all time. Nothing else can beat it this year. I'm so sorry. It's just perfect cinema. I have never felt so passionate about a movie, and I'm gonna cry, and how it explores a mother and daughter relationship. But the Daniels portrayed it in a way that was gut-wrenching, but it's also a hilarious film and stylized perfectly. Like, the costume design is phenomenal. The fact that it didn't get nominated for costume design is criminal, but score is great. The 3 parts that it has are hilarious to me, especially because in the 3rd part of the film, when I saw it first in theaters, somebody left the theater because they thought it was over. They were wrong. Michelle Yeoh and Key Oh my god, Key. Oh my god. If he doesn't win Best Supporting Actor, I'm gonna lose my mind because he was amazing. Michelle Yeoh was fantastic. Stephanie was amazing. But when I came into this, I was super excited, but also a little worried because the only thing I've ever seen from the Daniels is Swiss Army Man, which was incredibly underwhelming to me. So I was so worried that I was going to have the same experience with Everything Everywhere All at Once, and then I didn't. I came out being like, this was one of the best movies I've ever seen, and both times that I saw it, I bawled my eyes out to the Mitski song playing at the end, and it was great. It's crazy to see your life being reduced to a bagel. And that was my favorite movies of this year. I hope you guys enjoyed the list. I would love to do more lists like this because I really enjoy talking about films. And I hope you guys have a great 2023!